This episode of the Better To podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needom, author of the Better To Burnout series, which includes her latest releases of Fairy Tales and I Love You and Is Love Just Another High. Hi gang, Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better To podcast. Today's guest is Amanda Keith from Three Crows Conjure. We talk about aliens for a bit. We talk about Sasquatch. We talk about Friday the 13th and Halloween, and we talk about a little bit serious stuff too. So there you go. Our intention was to have a fun podcast, and there is some fun parts, but we did get a little serious. So check it out. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm good.
I'm fine. I'm going to say long time no talk to, but in all honesty, Amanda and I are friends, and anybody that's watched us before knows this. So today is our Halloween episode, and well, like last year, we're pretty much going to talk about all those things supernatural and wild and weird. And I guess first thing we should talk about, though, since we just are coming off of it and we're taping this before Halloween, is that we had the Friday the 13th, and then right after we had that lovely eclipse.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody I've talked to in the last couple of days has not gotten really good sleep. Last night I did, but the last few days before that, whoops, no way.
No.
You were a victim too.
I was a victim and it sucked.
And it's weird because, they talk about, the eclipse is going to do this thing. And I think what happens is when we have these major events, everybody starts thinking, okay, it's going to be that day that everything's just going to blow to shit. No, it's a process.
The tower it may blow up all at once, but does it? I mean, where you really think about the tower, depending on how it hits, where it goes, there's several pieces to the puzzle that as it falls.
Well, I mean, think about a volcano. Does a volcano just go 0 to 60? No, a volcano starts building and building that pressure. And really, when you think about the tower, in most cases, unless it's the Housewives Tarot, which is the Jello one, it takes time. It takes time to build that pressure to finally say, I'm pulling myself out of the situation I am in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and during these tower moments when we have them, it's kind of like, most of the time we're feeling like hold on to our butts, but then literally it's seeing our strength through the perseverance of having things end abruptly. And it's not always an easy transition. And then you're rebuilding at the same time. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's the hard thing is nobody likes to have to tear out or tear down their comfort zone. We grow accustomed and we don't realize how stagnant things get. I mean, when I look back at my first marriage, and I don't even know how we're going here, but we are. When I look at my first marriage, I realized after we were living in a small town and I went down to Dallas and I saw a band that I love. And I came back after seeing friends and family down there to the small town where I didn't know anybody really. And I just looked at my ex-husband and I'm like, my life is stagnating. And it was almost like the universe said, oh, wait, hold that thought. Because about 5 minutes later, my friend who was a disc jockey called me and was like, hey, I talked to my boss about you. So right then and there, as this is starting to slowly wane, I'm getting a job as a disc jockey. So this is going to open up something for me, even though I don't realize it at the time. Like, okay, fine. The marriage would end up ending in the next 8 months or 6 months, but it took me recognizing and opening it up and saying, my life feels like it's stagnant. And I think that's, even when we're in our comfort zone, there's a certain point that we don't see the growth. And that's what our soul wants is growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we're here. All for the experience.
But we don't always want to do the experience. We want to kick and scream and just stay in the status quo and float along the lazy river. And the Friday the 13th thing, I mean, let's go back to there. The Friday the 13th thing is kind of one of those, I mean, I was born on Friday the 13th. So for me, it's never been, oh my God, be careful. It's like, no, it is what it is. And I find it funny that, this year people celebrated Friday the 13th as the day of the goddess. But most times, I mean, how many old buildings do you not see the 13th floor on? How many times have you heard bad luck on Friday the 13th? And it's like, it's just a day,
Yeah,
folks. But yet,
it is. And it was a day back in the day. It was a way of connecting to the divine feminine. It was a way of honoring that. And it's allowing that connection to be sacred. But anything sacred now that used to be sacred and connected to the divine, divine feminine, that's all now like turned into this, it's bad, for one moment to the next. There's throughout history, this is what it's done. But it's always so kooky. It's always so kooky. Like, I remember growing up with Friday the 13th and the superstitions and all that. And I'm like, it's just a day.
well, I mean, I've had people, because of being born on Friday the 13th, and
Yeah.
yes, it is in October, so that makes it even spookier. And then throw New Orleans in there, and I'm just a witch from hell. Not really, but anyway, that's the thing. It's like, I can add these things together, and I can market myself to Kingdom Come, because, oh my gosh, you must be a born witch. I was born on Friday the 13th. Big deal. If you add up my year, it's 1013 as well. Oh, wow. I have 13 all over my birthday. And to me, it's just like, it's not a bad thing. And, when you were saying about how we go through society with the whole, well, this is bad for you. What about eggs? Eggs one month, the eggs are good for you. Eggs the next month, not so much. So I think it all,
Yeah.
you can dumb it down to whether it's religious or health wise. We constantly are constantly changing these things of, yes, this is great for you. And then others, no, not so much. Oh yeah, it's great for you. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Oh no, not so much. And we keep going back and forth. And I think that is, astrology has a lot of play in that too, though, because the pendulum swings one way and it goes back the other.
It does. So it's now like, can we find a medium? Now that we're finding, all of this research, all of the facts and data that we have, can we come to a medium? Can we find that balance? And that does happen. It doesn't stay very long, because the pendulum, it goes one way or another. It doesn't stay in the middle very, very long, unless you want it to.
But that goes right back to the comfort zone thing. You can leave the pendulum there, but oh my gosh, if a gust of wind comes along, that pendulum's going to rock. So
Exactly.
you really have to look at the bigger picture, and that goes back to, Halloween. It's Samhain. It's the Day of the Dead is right after, and I mean, because we are becoming more global, we're willing to embrace more traditions of outside of the United States.
Yeah. But I will say, even in the United States, and I may be hated for this, but we can be pretty arrogant to like how other cultures do things and how like things are perceived. So yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and bash on that one, because I wholeheartedly agree, because, it's, my dad is of a certain generation, and it's his way or the highway. So it's like, that is a lot of people in this country. And the thing is, I grew up watching Schoolhouse Rock, that talked about immigration and all of us coming. And if you really start digging into your genealogy, which recently I've done, you can see that, guess what? Unless you are a Native American, unless you have that ancestry, you're just an immigrant too. But we don't look at that. And I mean, that's the funny thing. It's just like, I want to say, well, Dad, you're not truly an American. You're the great grandson of an immigrant.
Yeah.
But we don't look at that. We forget.
No. We do forget. I don't forget, because my grandmother was indigenous. She was Apache and Cherokee. So when my dad was growing up, he was like, well, we're Native American. She's like, no, we're not. She goes, you were born in America, right? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, so she goes, you're a Native American. You were born here, so you're a native. My people were here long before anybody else. And I was just like, damn, she got it. It's the truth. So yeah, absolutely.
But then there's a thing here, and I'm going to say in this, how many times did your grandmother have to hide that she was a Native American? Because there is a
Most,
stigma with that. I mean, there's the stigma of, and we've talked about this off air before. It's like there's a
yeah,
stigma when you look at somebody's skin color and you just assume that because they are that skin color, they are that nationality, they have that ethnicity.
yeah,
When
yeah,
that could be the furthest thing from the truth.
yeah. Well, it's crazy because you're exactly right. Just by judging somebody, like me with blonde hair gets treated completely different when I have dark. And I've watched the exact same people who would normally smile to my face with blonde hair. When I have my dark hair and I look more indigenous, they look at me and they can't look at me. They won't look at me. They
Now,
won't.
but here's the thing: is that indigenous? Because I've had the rainbow hair color of, I've been red, I've been brunette, I've been blonde, and yeah, I will say this: whatever hair color I have, I get a different reaction, and I think that and maybe that's because most of us were raised with Barbie dolls. I don't know, and
Possible.
we were so used to the blonde hair. I mean, now that's Bratz dolls changed that,
Right.
but
Right.
for a long time, it was like if you didn't have the blonde hair, because the brunette
Oh,
Barbies you never got a brunette Barbie.
it was rare. It
Yeah,
was rare.
redhead maybe you got midge, but doubtful. And especially when I grew up, the 70s, it was all blonde. It was all blonde. There was one or
Yeah.
two brunettes, but my mom would always buy me blonde. So there puts this image in, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not. What I'm getting at though is I think we are taught, if you're constantly being reinforced that, look, here's a blonde doll. You get to play with the blonde doll. Look at the baby. Oh, it's a blonde baby doll. Here, we're all going to be blonde. So, wow. Okay. Don't even ask me where that came from. But then aren't we really, in a way, conditioning ourselves to give us certain people's dream?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't even
Well,
think
and
about it?
yeah, and I mean, it's how we were perceived. Most in society, you want the blonde hair, long legs, curvy features. But if she dresses too scantily or too one way, then she's the whore. I mean, it's all about how society conditions and all that. But yeah, and that goes down to like the church and power and all that. And yeah, and that's actually going back to Friday the 13th. I think one of the reasons why it started getting the superstitions and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I mean, the church, we know that the church co-opted a lot of pagan traditions. That's there, and I know there's a lot of people that will sit here. My own father denies this because we had a discussion about the Christmas trees, and he just
yeah.
flat out denied this. And I don't think that being Christian's wrong. I don't think
Mm-mm,
being any
no.
religion, if you religion calls to you, whatever your religion is, it's your religion. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean you have to go to church every Sunday. That doesn't mean, because honestly, to me, and I know we're supposed to have a fun episode, this is turning into whatever, but for me, church, I learned early on, and I mean, I went to Catholic school, part of my schooling career,
Yeah.
and I watched girls sit there when we go to church on Sunday, looking through the Avon book that's tacked into their hymnal because we didn't have smartphones, looking at the Avon book while they're supposed to be listening, and I'm just like, my mom would like kill me for this.
Hmm.
Why are you even here? And then the
Yeah.
thing is, the other thing that often struck me was, all right, so you go out Friday, Saturday night, you party your ass off. Oh, but I'm going to go take communion and everything is forgiven. And I got in trouble. I didn't get in trouble with the church, but I went to Christmas Mass with one of my friends and they were doing communion. And I got up there and I took communion. And my friend's like, so when was your first communion? I'm like, I never did it. I studied the catechism in the Lutheran church, but I never got confirmed. She's like, well, you're not supposed to do that. I'm thinking, wait a second. If this is the body and blood of Christ, right? And it's supposed to forgive me for my sins, right?
Yeah.
Why am I suddenly not supposed to take this because I haven't been confirmed? Because isn't that kind of going against what?
What Christ? Yeah.
Yeah.
What he taught. Absolutely.
Because I don't
Yeah.
think anybody at when Christ turned the body and bread to his body and the wine to blood, I don't think he sat there and said, "Okay, guys, did you study all the doctrine? Did you get confirmed? You passed the test?" No, he didn't.
No.
So I just it's interesting that we have these rules that you have to do this. Okay. But and then they're the first people that will scream about indoctrination, about college and everything, but you're the ones that are kind of indoctrinating people.
Very much so. Very, yeah.
And
Yeah.
sorry folks if I've offended anybody with my rant here, but it's one of those things where it's like if you look at the bigger picture, religion is a lot about control.
Very much. Very much. And I think that's the whole point of it, and why they took a lot of the pagan traditions and put it in. That's why you also now see some of the more stricter forms of Christianity where they don't celebrate Christmas or any of that, because it's acknowledging, yeah, these did come from the pagan people to convert them into into the church. And it happens. It really does. So it's not, that's the thing. I don't have a problem
No.
with Christianity. And I've gone to church, living proof, you know, won't burst into flames. But, it's being open, it's about the connection. To me, it's about the spirituality, because to me, the religion is always man made. So, it's kind of like like Halloween. Halloween went from, it's the last harvest of the year. And in the Celtic celebrations, that's where a good part of, which is called Samhain, okay? That's where a good part of Halloween started to have, in the Victorian years, started coming back. And, the Victorian years were just an odd, it was an odd age in
Yeah,
human society.
definitely.
you know, um, I was, I've been learning about Victorian history a little bit, and I'm like, this is interesting of how, you know, they viewed people and they viewed spirits, and they were very fascinated with the spirituality and spiritualism, and doing seances, and really diving into the paranormal field. So a lot of that comes around that time. So
Well, the veil being thinner, but and once again, we're going back to that pendulum swinging. We're going back to
mhm,
that pendulum swinging where more people are open to it. The interesting thing, when we're going back to Christianity real quick, in the last book I wrote, I put in there because I had them go to the Met, and the Temple of Damdor is
mhm,
there, and it's with Isis. So I wrote in there about the creation story of Isis, and I
yeah,
had somebody who's Christian read my book or read part of the book, and I put that in there, and I was like, this might be too much information. And so I didn't expand. I just put a little bit in there. She's like, no, 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 no. You should put more in there because it's very interesting. But it's basically the Christian Christ story. I mean, and that's the thing. We have the birth story so many different ways by so many different religions and so many different ethnicities. Who if you're claiming this is the end all be all, well, you have to look around and really look at the world, that there are multiple stories that are similar.
very much so. And it's fascinating. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, I see the beauty in that. I see the beauty in literally going, see, it's all connected. It's all the same. Can't we just come together and unify and see that we are okay to be different yet the same?
That
That's
Well, here's the problem. If we all actually did the Rodney King thing and got along, then there would not be the people that are able to control and take advantage of and manipulate things in their favor, because we are too busy arguing with each other to see the big picture. It's like, look over here, don't look over here, pay
yeah,
attention here. Look, I'm going to put all this right here in front of your face, but this stuff here I'm doing back here that may be shady as shit. And I'm not saying conspiracy theory. I'm not talking about that. It's just simple facts. When we are so worried about Jada and Will, not that I am, but I mean, Lord knows you open up Instagram and there's a post or something about Jada says, who cares? Why are
yeah.
you airing your laundry? Why?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the distraction. We get distracted by all these other things and we don't pay attention. I think that's where we lose some of our soul connection because we are so focused on what is presented to us.
Yes. Yes.
And I go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, I feel like if we were, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about like my line of field of what I do. And I know you're in this as well, but it's getting people to reconnect with their inner self so they can see, start seeing, looking past the facades and the distractions and the things that are getting in the way, and we start finding that commonality. And I think that's,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's what spiritualism is it brings in that, we're all spirit, we're all one. And that's scary. That's powerful. Like when you really look at it and see we are connected one way or another. Some are stronger than others,
Mm-hmm.
But it's that whole mysticism of, yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of the problem is now, and I mean, I'm one of those people that I had no internet, I had nothing, and then yes, I embraced that and da da da. But I think one of the things we don't talk about, everybody, you and I have talked personally, and I'm not disputing this, folks. I'm not disputing this, but we don't talk about this in a bigger picture. When we talk about ADHD, we don't talk about, and I don't give my mother credit for one thing. My mother said when I used to watch MTV, she's like, "Oh, that's just crap. It's going to rot your mind." Okay. And that was when it was just all music videos. That was not,
Yeah.
So when you think about it though, we have rewired our brains because we are so now wired for instant gratification for that hit on the internet, that picture, that song, that whatever, that our attention span, we don't focus on anything anymore. Hey, I'm watching a movie, but guess what I'm doing? I'm doom scrolling at the same time. And
yes.
my late husband would sit there and say, "You're not even watching the movie." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And I could tell him exactly what was going on. He's like, "How do you do that?" But that, I guess that my point is, you can't connect spiritually if your mind is so popping because you're distracted. So therefore, because we've rewired our brain, is this why we're seeing the rise of ADHD? Because we are so used to it, but we're not going to say it's the phone. We're going to say that everybody's got it. We're not talking about the actual transformation of the thought process because we're all distracted by what is in our hand or what is on the net.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do this is where the whole spirituality comes back into play, because it means turning that phone off or putting it down, going outside, which I really don't do, but going outside and being in the sun and being with people. There's nothing like how many times I've gone to a restaurant, not recently, but how many times have you been in a restaurant and here's a couple, they're on their first date or whatever, and they're both, okay, so why did you actually go out with each other? I mean, personally, when I go over to my friend's house, I typically, unless I know I'm waiting for something important, I typically will turn my phone on work and I'm focused on my friend. I'm not going to focus on whatever else is going on because guess what? It'll be there.
I'm the same way. I'll literally turn it on do not disturb. And then sometimes if I brought my purse, I'll put it in my purse or I'll put it away or I'll flip it upside down where I'm like, I want to be present.
Unless something comes up that you're talking about and you need to find a picture or a topic that what is that name of that song or something, it stays away because the whole fact, I want to be engaging to the people I'm with. I didn't come out to, I mean, if I was going to do that, I could just stay at home. So why not be engaging? And I think that's part of the thing we've lost how to communicate with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And also learning how to do things, that connection of doing things together, that connection. And it's, me and TJ were talking about that where, I was like, people are, and we've talked about this several times about, the loss of connection and the loss of, because of the phones and because of the internet. And the internet is an amazing tool, but it can also be a horrible distraction. And I watch my children like just with video games, and I'm like, yeah, we're limiting this, and I think, giving them a little bit of time, and then, but it's like you can't do that with an adult. An adult is an adult, and they're going to do what they want.
You have to get to a point where
So,
you do it yourself. And I mean, I have a bad propensity, and the hubby would always get after me because when I go to bed, I pull out my tablet and I'm like playing Candy Crush. And he's like,
mhm.
that's not going to help you go to sleep, but it does. Because for me, because being the creative person and intuitive, I get all sorts of information constantly. So playing Candy Crush for me allows me to
It helps you.
focus and turn the chatter off.
Yeah.
But in most cases, that's not a normal person. Most people are going to get jacked on doing that. And I know certain games, there was one game I was playing, I don't even remember what it was, but I found myself getting jacked with that game. I was just sitting there and I would play for hours on end. It's like, no, this is getting deleted because it's bad. Royal
Yeah.
Match, that's the game. Royal Match. And it's on every ad on it's like, but it's addictive. And I don't want to play a game that's addictive. And I don't play with the sound up or anything like that. So it was just something in the game that made it addictive.
Yeah.
And I think
So it simulated a part of your brain where it connected that into
yeah,
the.
yeah. And I think that's the thing. We don't realize how addiction doesn't have to be about, and I know this is not where we're going. Addiction does not have to be about alcohol or food or sex or drugs. Addiction can be simply being addicted to a game, to, a person that constantly reads. Not that that's a bad thing, but if
Yeah.
you're checking out constantly, because this goes back to being in your comfort zone, because your comfort zone is not so comfortable anymore and you're constantly looking for an escape, you're not engaging in life because you're engaging in an addiction.
Yes. Yes.
So you got to unpack the bigger picture and you got to really dig deep. And part of that is reframing society the way we are and having that connection with people. Maybe the
Yeah.
UFOs need to come.
I was gonna say, well, they have.
Yeah, I know.
I'm God, yeah.
I know they have.
I'm like, yeah, there's aliens. And yeah, they visited many times. Many,
Uh,
many, many times.
I mean, literally, let's think about this. The pyramids, there's no way they could be built with what technology they had back then. There's
Yeah.
no way. I mean, and in the time frame, just like, well, Easter Island, that's a whole other kerfuffle. If you look at that, how those statues came about and where they were brought from, and there's legitimate questions of how did that get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet we're, oh no, aliens never came here. They were.
It's depicted in art. Like I've like if you've ever watched Ancient Aliens, like I do, I love that show. You watch any of like evidence. I mean, there's evidence upon evidence upon evidence in art and features. I mean, you like even in the Bible, like some of the things that they describe, and I'm like, until you start listening, you start doing the research yourself, you're starting to go, wow. I mean, my dad um is a Bigfoot. Um he loves Bigfoot. He loves, like, if I swear when he retires, if his back will let him, he will be out there researching. I'm fully positive.
Just no mating calls. No mating calls.
It's always the mating calls.
No mating calls, because you better be prepared, and you're not going to be prepared because that's a big ass man coming at you. Unless there's a Mrs. Squatch somewhere, there's a big ass man that's going to have something for you, and you're not going to want it.
Yeah, I don't want it. No.
Although there are romance novels with Sasquatch.
Are there really?
Oh, dude, there are romance novels for aliens, for wait for it, dinosaurs.
What?
Oh yeah, there's dinosaur porn in fiction. Yes. Yeah, somebody posted, being a writer, you get this stuff of, do you believe this crap? And yes, there is dinosaur romance novels. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And they're hardcore erotica. Big hands, little, yeah.
No.
I sat
Oh
my one of my writer friends
my.
came over and we read the excerpt from it and both laughed our asses off at it because it was just,
What? Yeah, I'm just sitting here going,
especially because they described his member as having barbs on it. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sound like a fun time.
no, no, it doesn't. I'm just sitting here going, what?
The mind is is a terrible thing. And it must be stopped in our lifetime. I don't know. But I mean, alien, back to the alien thing, it's like, you were saying, it goes back to something you said earlier that we want to, especially here in the US, we want to believe only these things. So
Mm-hmm.
if you
Yeah.
say aliens are real, we're going to look at you like you're a hot mess express person and kind of crazy. Although now we are embracing more of this stuff, especially as we step into the age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
But, still some people are like,
Well,
no.
I mean, it's no different than, people and the spirits, the ghost and ghosts, investigating and, the hell, I mean, there's literally depictions of people having sex with ghosts and even like literally necrophilia. Like there is a thing where I'm just like, why would you want to have sex with a dead body?
There is a song by Concrete Blonde called "The Ghost of a Texas Ladies Man."
Yeah, I mean, it's again the strange and unusual, and this is the stuff that I'm normally ever since I was a kid. I was like, yep, that's me. Let's go
Okay,
down this path, and
I'm
you know, go. Why is this happening?
all right. I'm going to say something really gross, but I'm going to say it because you're like
Okay,
necrophilia, and no, I would never do it. Never ever would I do this. But
Lord.
when you think about this, okay, so let's just say, okay, back in an episode of Dynasty, the guy died while he was fucking somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So did he have a stiffy all the way when he went into riggers and everything? Okay, so wait, so then it's going to be cold. So wait a sec, wait. So maybe it's cold. Maybe it's cold because the body temperature, and maybe it's in riggers.
Yes.
Wait. So then now think about this for a second. So now you can buy toys, stones or crystals or glass that you can stick in
Mm-hmm.
the freezer to stick up there, to stick up your hoo ha, your vajayjay, your vagina. Would that not be similar?
It would be very similar.
Okay, then there you
Undeniably.
go. I've never done this personally, but there you go. And
Yeah,
there's
you stumped me
crickets.
there.
Do what?
I go, you stumped me there on that one. But I'm like, yeah, I can't. Yeah,
I
that would
mean,
be very similar to what I would imagine. I mean, I'm sitting here going, yeah,
personally, I don't, that, but you've heard stories back. I mean, there's been stories throughout the years of morticians getting in trouble for fucking a dead
yeah.
body.
Well, and you know that it's becoming more of a woman's field now, being a mortician, um, than men because of this. Where I'm like,
But,
okay, guys.
but here's the thing. This is the thing I want to say. Women are just as guilty of doing shit like that. So why are you sitting there saying, "Oh, it'll be okay because a woman's doing it"? And no
No, I'm
offense
not
to
saying it's
women.
okay.
No,
It's
I'm not
just
saying you are. I'm just saying in general. In general, it's okay because it's a woman. Just like okay, well, and here's the double. It's a double standard because
it
I
is.
can't tell you how many times in high school, not me, there was this teacher that we had that was younger, and when I moved to my second school, and I can't tell you how many girls I knew that were like, "Oh my God, Mr. Such and Such is so hot." I would definitely okay. So how is that okay? But yet a female teacher, and male teachers crossed the line back then.
Yeah,
But they didn't
yeah.
get slapped as bad as a woman got slapped for messing around with a young boy. But
Nope.
here's the difference: a guy taking advantage of a young girl is mortifying for most. A young guy banging an older teacher, he gets a high five.
Yeah.
What's the difference here? He's an impressionable young man. She took advantage, same way he took advantage of her. What's the difference?
There's really none, to be honest. The
Mm-mm.
only thing, the only thing, but I'm like, this is with anything at any age. The woman's more likely to get pregnant.
Well, and here's the other thing, you know, an older woman with a younger guy. Okay, cougar.
Yeah.
And switch that around to a younger woman with an older guy. Okay, gold digger.
It's always the woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, whatever. I think that's been kind of my opinion about things lately, is just like, okay, whatever it is what it is.
We
So,
we have to take away the label. That just what's, you know, and quit demeaning women for whatever. I mean, if a guy did this, he's not a gold digger.
yeah. I mean, guys do it all the time. There's younger men with older women. But it doesn't become like, that's the thing. The woman is usually more of the target
Mm-hmm.
because she is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid if we stand in our power, whether we choose an older man or if we choose a
Younger guy.
yeah, a younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's no different.
But
You know,
society will paint it that way.
I think society always has, because a woman in her power, a woman making a choice that is her choice, it's her doing what she feels is right. That's what's dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
because we're unpredictable.
Well, I mean, the perception, when we talk about perception of things, my husband, because of his heart condition, tended to have a lot more gray.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go places, and, you know, once or twice it happened that we were leaving a restaurant and somebody's like, let me get the door for you and your dad.
Wow.
And when he
Poor
was,
John.
and he was recovering, when he was recovering in the rehab center after having his quadruple bypass, I'm having dinner with him one night there because I was allowed to eat with him. So I'm having dinner with
Mhm.
him, and this woman comes over. She goes, "Oh, it's so nice that you're having dinner with your dad." And yeah, John definitely did end up dyeing his hair after that. He's like, "I'm not going to be your father. I'm not going to play that game." I'm like, "Do we look that much alike that they think I'm your kid? I mean, come on. This is." But I mean, at the
That's
time I was coloring my hair as well. So it's like, it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, because the perception of him looking older than me, oh, well, he must be your father.
or even like, okay, and this is disgusting. Um, I have many times, and I don't know why, I look a lot like my dad in many ways. But literally, women will think that I'm with my dad, and I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. I'm like, that's my dad. No, you know. But then they look at me going, well, you would date an older man your dad's age. And I was like, yeah, I would. But I don't want my dad. That's the thing. It's like, age doesn't bother me. The thing is no, this is my father. And I just laugh at it normally. My dad's the one normally like, oh God, God, that's my daughter. What are you doing? I was like,
Well,
yeah,
you
whatever.
know, somebody made it okay to lust after their daughter.
Ugh,
We
ugh.
won't mention any names, but you know what I'm
Mm-mm.
talking about. So let's bring the conversation so we won't really tacky there.
Change number number three.
So, what is the weirdest experience you have ever had around Samhain/Halloween?
um, well, it's a couple different ones, because Halloween has always been big growing up. Like, my mama was, we would always decorate and stuff. I've always had my gifts. Um, the weirdest thing, I will have to say, there's a couple. I sometimes see spirits, since I have a gift of mediumship. I literally see them like human form. It gets stronger towards, as the veil is thinning towards Samhain, Halloween. Literally one night I was driving, and I was driving past the local cemetery here, the main one.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I see this man just walking across the road. and I had to slam on my brakes because if I hadn't, I would have hit him. But there was nobody there. Like literally as I slammed on my brakes, and luckily there was nobody in front of me. And no, I had not been drinking. I had not been like there. I was completely sober. It was me seeing a man in spirit, because literally I saw him walk in front of the car and then he disappeared as he was heading towards the other way. And I was just like, what? And I looked over and I'm like, the damn cemetery. I'm like, okay, somebody was going and visiting. I get it. I was like, just don't do that again, because I mean, seriously, I could have been in a severe accident. But I think the creepiest thing that's happened around this time of year was when I was a teenager. I was living in this trailer, believe it or not, that anybody that knows the area here is like, yeah, there's something off in that place.
Tell them where you're at. That way they have a general idea. Indianapolis, yes, or Greenwood?
Indianapolis. I was in a suburb about 30 minutes outside of Indianapolis, called Center Grove. Okay. And I was kind of in the ghetto part of Center Grove. Center Grove is known to be a very classy, very, nice area. I was in the trailer park, so I was kind of in the ghetto. And they had rumors that it was of burial grounds. Okay. Well, there were always, when we lived there, and it's a very oppressed area, so you can imagine everything else that kind of builds up there because of it. One night I was watching a thing on exorcisms, and I'm not kidding you. We had already had like doors slamming. My radio would go up and down in volume by itself. I'm watching this thing on exorcisms, right? Right as the bed starts shaking, my bed starts shaking. You've never seen, and it took a lot to scare me, because
I'm out. I would have been like, I'm out. Bye.
You've never seen me jump and scream so loud out the other room. I did. And I went back in. I never had another experience like that again. But it was just like, I don't know what it was. All I know is like, I told my mom we're saging. Because I would wake up and there would be a man at the foot of my bed. Like that's the kind of vibes in this place. And I'm like, nope, done.
Before John and I got together, he was in Cicero. He had an apartment in Cicero, and it was above a shop. So the building had been there for forever. And he was basically blind without his glasses. He couldn't see shit. And he woke up in the middle of the night. He told me this. Now, this is a man who would sit there and say that, how do you know? Okay, well, all right, wise ass. He said that at the foot of his bed, he woke up, and at the foot of his bed, he saw a man in a duster with a cowboy hat on, grabbing his foot and waking him up. And it was only there briefly, and he described him to a T. He's like, and I can't see shit without my glasses. Well, turns out his sugar was going low. And so the spirit woke him, and he ended up, he had to have juice and stuff because his sugar was going low. But I mean, he also saw the weirdest thing. I mean, it wasn't even me. It was Halloween, and we were meditating, and this is before we got together. And we were at a friend's house. We're all supposed to be meditating. Well, he's gonna be a guy. I'm not gonna meditate. So he just watches me. And he said that he's like, and he told me this months later, he didn't even tell me that night. He's like, I saw this woman superimposed on top of you. He told me what she was wearing and everything. And it was what my mom was wearing when she died. And it was my mom. When I showed him the picture, he was like, yeah, that's her. Yet you got the audacity to ask me, how do I know? That's the thing I think about it too, when we talk about weird stuff, is we are so conditioned in this life on this planet to dismiss the weirdness, the signs, the things. And I mean, now there's the big thing about the songs that come across. We have medication that be for ADHD that will take care of that, because that's just a form of ADHD. Well, I've always thought that if a song gets stuck in your head or something, there's a message there. And that's 95% of the time what it's the case. Some random song, you're like, the hell?
Yep.
There's usually a message, but we're trying to, as a society, tell you, no, 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 we're not supposed to be doing that. You're not. It's your ADHD acting up.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not, like I said, I'm not disputing that some people are legitimate about that. I'm not disputing it. But once again, I sometimes I feel that the medical field just goes, oh, look, we have a new buzzword. We don't know what's really going on with you. So we're just going to lump you in and here you go. Here's some medication. Take care.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're so conditioned now, like, because I do believe in synchronicities and I do believe that, things usually happen for a reason. Okay. We may not understand it. It may seem like a really harsh thing, but normally, good or bad, it usually happens for a reason. And a song usually plays at a certain time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or there's a message in the song. And it may take me a couple of times to hear the song going, why is the song sticking out? And then, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's allowing, um, music has always spoken, but I've even done that with TV shows. I've always gotten like, just there's always been that synchronicity. So, um, I think it needs to get more. I've gotten, I've been reading books and like I'll open up and it's just like, boom, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's like when we need, I feel like our spirits and I feel like the divine, however you want to call it, our spirits, however you want to call it, they will get our attention one way or another. And it's about reclaiming that gift, that connection, and knowing that, yeah, we don't need to be disconnected from that. We don't need to be disconnected to one another.
I mean,
And I mean,
go ahead.
no, well, I was going to say, that's all about what, Samhain is and what Halloween is. It's not about the costumes and all that. It was about celebrating the dead and preparing for the winter. And it was all that, it was a combination of things, you know?
But we don't, we have, like with everything, we have commercialized
Mm-hmm.
it. We
Mm-hmm.
commercialize it and make a buck off of it. And there we go. Right now you can go get your turkey stuff. You can go get your Halloween stuff and Christmas stuff all at one time. And before December's over, there'll be some place in Walmart that has Valentine's Day stuff. I've seen it last
It's
year.
it's weird.
Oh,
It's
wait,
weird.
I forgot New Year's. You can also get your New Year's stuff already too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, life moves fast enough. I don't need this slam dunk. Here you go. And the one thing I think, me personally, I've learned, and I'm going through this now, is it's great to have all that stuff for the holidays, but you go in and you change your whole life and you put everything up and then you have to take everything down. The last time we
Mm-hmm.
had a tree in this house, hubby he bought a vintage blue and green tinsel tree,
Mm.
and he bought a color wheel. And so because of the cat, we ended up setting it up in our bedroom because our bedroom was big enough to do it. So we set up in a bedroom and I put vintage ornaments from the 60s that I had since I was a kid. That motherfucking tree stayed up for 2 years
That's awesome.
because it was like, it's not coming down. We covered it. Because it's like, you also have to consider the age of the tree. You don't want to do all that hassle with it,
Right. Right.
but you have to decide. I mean, I know somebody that actually her husband loved Christmas, so they had a tree up all the time and it was in their kitchen. You have to decide, if you love Halloween, then go ahead and decorate your house with black cats and everything all year round. Why just
Yep.
limit it? Why do we have to change out things to be, this is this holiday, this is this holiday? And if you have kids, I understand. Trust me, I understand. But I can't tell you. I mean, I kind of decorated last year for Christmas, but even right before my hubby died, we didn't decorate because it's just another, you have to up in your life. And where I was going with this is, having so much stuff, we've made our world, because of the world of credit, you can just buy and have instant gratification over and over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. And I look around my house and I call I'm an archivist, I guess, or a collector, but I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I need to get rid of a lot of this stuff because we were trying to fix what was wrong at the time, which was he was dying. And
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the bigger picture, it's like, guess what? Okay, so some of this stuff I can sell. But then wait a second, and I am gonna bitch about this, and sorry. If I sell it on eBay, I have to pay tax on the money I make. But
Yeah.
well, wait a second. Did I already pay tax on this item? Isn't the whole thing about double taxation without representation coming into play somewhere in here? So all this stuff that I have that I could sell, is it even worth selling time I pay fees to sell it and time I take taxes out? Is it even worth my time to do that? Or is it time just to say, you know what? I want to live a better life and just let it go? And I think that's a bigger picture for a lot of things in our lives because we have so many things that we don't resonate with anymore that we just,
Mhm.
and I know Maria Kondo was big a couple of years ago, but the thing is, it's still a prevalent thing because we have credit.
Yeah.
And oh my God, your house looks so dated. It looks like 2 seasons ago. You should redecorate. You should repaint it every year. And it's like, when does that become unsustainable?
It's a pain in the butt.
Hmm. Yes, I went off on a tangent again. I'm on a
No,
tangent.
no, no, no. I mean, it's the truth. Like, we moved into a house about a year ago. Um, and I mean, it's an older house. It's the 1960s ranch. It's only had, I think their grandfather moved in and then passed. And then I had like a family that lived here for like 50 years after that. And now we're here. And I'm like, okay, and it needs updating. I mean, it's nice, but there is some updates that we need to do with the house. And it's a pain. I'm just like, yeah, yeah, this is what, but I love renovation. I mean, that part in decorating, it's just now doing it with kids and doing it with having a business and doing it.
Where do you find the
It's
time?
Yeah, yeah.
I just my concern is, and I don't want to, not for you personally, but it's like, back
Mhm.
a few years ago when you had all the several years ago, the whole Mockingbird J dystopian novel crap coming out. We all
Mhm.
wanted to paint everything gray, and why the hell? I mean, that's like really depressing. But okay, if you really need to do that, but they had nothing, and that really went against consumerism. But
Mhm.
yet we have all that instant gratification to consume. And I
Mhm.
mean, I guess maybe I'm talking about this because that's where I'm at. I see where that gets you, and it gets you nowhere.
Yeah. Well, and I have to agree with you on that one because literally I've never understood it. Like, it's like, get what you need, use what you need, and eventually, be happy with what you have. I think I remember my grandparents every 10 years, they would update the house every 10 years. And I was like, that's reasonable. You know,
Hmm.
they have fresh paint, new furniture, they had worked hard and they had nice jobs. They could do that. I was like, totally get it. If you can do it, do it.
But our economy doesn't allow for us to do that now. I mean, the thing is, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that are struggling, and they want to look and live a life that they see on Instagram, and it's like it's not sustainable. And
It's not.
I know part of my reason for the way I do live is because of the childhood trauma. Not only the
Yeah.
teacher, but it's also the fact that I had everything packed away at a certain age.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's like, so this is coming to a point where you have to reckon with your past. And I think people, once again, if you're not paying attention, if you're constantly distracted, you're not doing what the work that you came here for, because this, some reason I decided to sign up in my soul for this crap.
Yeah.
So it's like I have to tangle and face this.
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm at. But I think that we need to get back to really the roots of life. And that's like, so Halloween should be about embracing and honoring the dead.
Mhm.
We should embrace our spirit. We should embrace our soul and not get caught up in all the trappings that just don't serve us eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I never understood it. Like, yeah, I like nice things. I will never deny that. I can be bougie. Okay.
All of us can.
um, but at the same time, I'm I know my limits, and it's like I can go years. Like if I really love something, I can go years without, buying something, and I'll keep it. And it's, for me, it's like as long as it works nice and it lasts, yeah. But
Well,
and it's like, what do you love? And I think that's the thing is how our houses are supposed to be. Our houses are supposed to be our sanctuaries. They are our safe places. So what is that to you? Is it something that's beautiful? Is it something that, you know, that's spooky or gothic? I mean, each person is going to be different
mhm.
because each person, what do you resonate with?
Well,
You
and
know?
that's the important thing. And I want to wrap this back to Sasquatch and the UFOs. Let's think about this. Have you ever seen Squatch all, with like a mohawk and like designer duds? Have you ever seen aliens with like bejeweled and bedazzled and all the no, if you really look at these characters, now fairies, yeah, fairies get a little bit, but if you look at them, you look at Sasquatch and the aliens, you don't see anything bougie. You don't see that. You see something natural. And in most cases, that is what being sacred and connected to your soul. And yes, sure, if you look at the Egyptian pyramids, they were a bit bougie with
Mm-hmm.
all the ornament. But is that any different than the Catholic Church? I mean, so
No.
there's different things where you have to look at and just because the aliens look so normal, maybe they are bougie. Maybe that's the whole temple thing that when they go out, we get bougie. But the whole fact of the matter is you have to be connected to your spirit. And that goes back to what you were just saying. Your
Yeah.
house has to represent who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's chaos around, like mine, it's not home. It's just chaos. And I find myself personally still occasionally saying, I don't do it very often now, but this was we. It's a we thing here. It's not a we thing
Mm-hmm.
here. It hasn't been a we thing here in a while. It's me. But once you become a we, it's hard to take the we out unless you're a royal we. It's not happening. You're a me. You're always a me. No matter what, you are always a me, even if you have a we.
Yes.
And the problem
Yes.
is for women, we tend to lose the me,
Very much.
become that
Actually, I
one.
made a post yesterday about how I was reading a book to help me. It's to get in touch with it's a sacred sexuality book. And to me, it's not about just sex because there's more to it. There's journaling questions, there's all kinds to find yourself. And that's a part of me because of my past that I need to heal and not just connect, but it's like women, sex, and just our bodies in general. It's not for us. Our whole lives we're taught that this is not for us. It's for others.
This
It's
is
for your
either
children.
this is dirty pillows, fun bags. It's not anything that has a nice, pretty name to it.
Yeah.
Boobies, tits, I mean, but they're not, like you said, they're not for us. They're for suckling, whether it be a baby or a man child. It's up to you.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, like, and it's like we're in a stage now where I feel like women are trying to say, no, I am of importance. I do matter. My body's more than just this. And then, and owning a woman owning her sexuality, a woman owning her, like who she is in general, that's intimidating for a lot of men. That's intimidating for a lot of men, not all men, but for men. Because a lot of the times the woman was just supposed to sit there, look pretty, and be there.
Why do you think we had mail order brides?
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to, until the 70s, we've talked about this. Until the 70s, you can have a checking account. And I mean, it's like women were so, and that didn't take away that we have women working at NASA and women developing hydrogen. We didn't have, but she's not noted. The woman who developed hydrogen is not noted. We don't talk about her. And that's the sad thing. We don't talk about the creation of what women have done besides creating life.
Well, and I'm going to even go there. Even the women that are stay-at-home moms, they're looked at in a negative light. Oh, they're lazy. They don't do this. They don't do that. My grandmother, who was indigenous, she was a homemaker. But man, she could cook, she could clean, and most of the time she ran that house. My grandfather, his first love, everybody knew, was his job. He was away, he traveled, he was not there all the time. He worked odd hours. It was her.
Well, and this is the thing about it. When you look at the stay-at-home mom, I mean, what you're saying is perfectly true and perfectly correct. When I became a stepmom, which happened really, really quick,
Mhm.
I left my job. I had a 4 and a 6 year old. I left my job because it was going to cost me what I was making to pay for daycare. And part of the reason I left was because the girls they had gotten new kids on the block dolls for Easter to go with their
Mhm.
Courtney and Skipper doll. And I'm walking past their room and I hear, I'm like, oh, I know that laugh, that little giggle is not a good thing. They're up
Yeah.
to something. So I tell Brian to take the youngest one out and I go in and I said, what's going on? She's like, well, you know, and of course, Jessica did volunteer before she left when I asked her. Well, Sissy wanted the Barbies to have sex.
Oh Lord.
Okay, you're 5 and 7 at this point. What the hell's going on? How do you know about this? I was played with my stepsister when I was 15, 16, and we didn't do that. Just because we were sharing a bedroom and I felt bad. So I played Barbies with her at that age, which I shouldn't have been, but I was trying to be nice. But so I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, well, such and such a daycare told me that when a man lays on top of a woman naked, that's having sex. Mm, so yeah, I'm instant family. So now I have to deal with this, and I'm just like, okay, they're not going to daycare anymore. I will be a stay-at-home mom because,
Yeah.
and it's not that I want to control what they learn. It's just the fact that I think there's certain things that they have to learn at a certain time. I mean,
Yes.
the youngest one was having accidents at a certain point because of the stress of the move, and I understand that. And they always had come out with wings, and they were talking about how they're good for accidents. So the oldest one looks at me and she goes, Sissy needs some of those. And I'm like, so I go grab this. They're both young. They're both girls. And I'm like, no, this is actually for your period. When you get older, that is what this is for. This is not
Yeah.
for that type of accident. But what are you going to do? And I mean, as my youngest stepdaughter tells me now, she's like, you were a kid raising kids. I was 22 at the time. And all of a sudden going from 0 to 60 to be a mom is like, okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so when you're talking about stay-at-home moms, I understand why, you get a bad rap because, well, you should be out there working. But if my job is going to pay for daycare and strangers are going to raise my kid, and then so I work till 5 o'clock, and I'm not condone if that's what you got to do. I understand, and some people don't even have the luxury of doing that. They have 2 jobs and they never get to see their kids, and I feel sorry for you. So I'm not saying that
Yeah.
if you're working, it's a bad thing. Not saying that at all. All I'm saying is if you're working a job and your money is going to daycare, wouldn't it be
Make sure.
smarter just to stay home and spend that, especially the 4 year old? The 4 year old, she couldn't be in school at first. So it was just her and I all the time. And
Yeah.
I relish having that time with that little girl
Yeah.
because she was my kid for all intents purposes. And I think that's what we lose. We lose the gift of having, because life gets in our way so much and we are so distracted, we miss the gift of having children and really getting to know our children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know you're a mom, so I know that's a struggle for you.
It is, I've been fortunate but I created that. I created that. I chose to have a life where I had my kids back to back. Literally, I had three kids in less than 3 years. And um, I've been doing my own business ever since then. And I've been fortunate enough to do it. I've been fortunate enough. Has it been easy? No. No. But I've been able to be there for my kids. And if my kids want me to go on field trips and if they want me to do that, then absolutely, yeah, I will, I'll stop. It makes my heart beat, like jump, because they're like, yeah, mom, come on, you know. But it's because I didn't have that. My mom was a single mom for the most of, when I was in school, elementary school, and wanted that. I didn't have that. She was working all the time. So I had my mama, who she worked all the time and then raised me at night, you know?
And I think that's,
So,
but see, you learn, and that's the one thing too. You learn from that experience about how to be the parent you wanted for your kids. It's the same thing with
yeah.
me being a step parent. I mean, I knew what how my stepfather treated me. I knew how I didn't want to treat my stepkids.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at things and then switch it and be that person that you aspire to be.
Yes.
So this actually brings us into a nice segue because you do have your shop and you do. Okay. So we've talked at different stages. This is kind of amusing because yes, the first time we talked, you had your dream shop. And then the second time we talked, you had lost it in the fire and you were working mainly online. And
Yeah.
now where is the shop? What
We
state are we in the shop?
Well, we have a production space where we do have like a shop space in. Um, and then we're actually we found a larger space that we're looking to hopefully be in by the end of the year. So we are in works with that. I haven't really said anything. So this is actually the first thing that I'm bringing it up now. So, um, I'm hoping everything goes through and it is a go. So starting in November, we can start moving into that direction.
So tell us a little bit about your space in case somebody's new to the podcast and hasn't heard one of the other episodes. Tell us a little bit
Okay,
about what
so
you do.
we have Three Crows Conjure is basically a conjure shop. We're New Orleans based, Southern style. We do have Southern conjure, but I will tell you, we have witchcraft as well, and we have um those are the two main themes of the shop. But we hand pour candles, we hand pour our oils, we handcraft everything that we do, that we carry for the most part, except for the books, the tarot books, which we're getting more of those in. And then we're trying to support local artists that make jewelry and also make art. So that's what we do.
And oh, what? And you do readings too. I'm not
And
gonna,
we
you know,
do readings, yes. Yeah, I am a
yes,
psychic medium. I've actually been reading since I was 21 professionally. I'm now 39, so yeah.
such an old lady.
I know, right?
I can't even say a damn thing. 60's looking closer, and I'm not.
So yeah.
But so if you have any needs, check out Three Crows Conjure
Thanks.
on the web. So I know we didn't really talk and have fun about Halloween. We ended up with serious shit. Imagine that, but that's
Yeah.
okay. What do you hope to happen this Halloween for you? Are you looking for anything in particular? Are your kids dressing up? Are you going to a party?
We Halloween is usually this time of year is usually really, really busy. But I do plan on going out and taking the kids out trick-or-treating. And then I this year is gonna be a quiet one, business wise, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So
Makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else do you want to add, or we should wrap
No,
this
just
up?
thank you for having.
You're welcome. So I think, we talked about the fact that we need to move away from labels. We tend to think very narrow minded about this is the way it has to be. Well, spirit kind of tells us that that's not the case, and we are constantly changing and evolving. That's how we grow. That's how our soul grows. And we just have to embrace those changes and embrace who we are and understand that things will get better if we allow ourselves to get out of our comfort zone. Sometimes the comfort zone is really not as a happy place either. We just are stuck, and we have to find a way to launch ourselves and pull ourselves out of it. So embrace the changes that are coming in your life, because everybody else in the world right now is going through change. We have a lot of tough things going on. But if we embrace the light and try to think positive and have hope, which is the biggest thing, is having hope, we can move forward and make it through. So on that note, as always, our sound is done by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio. And I hope that you enjoyed the podcast whenever you're listening to it, whether it be morning, evening, afternoon, or the weekend. And thank you guys for tuning in. And please remember to subscribe. And you can find a video for the podcast if you're listening on YouTube. So check it out. Take care, guys. Catch you next time. Bye. The Better 2 podcast is mixed, edited, and produced by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio Productions.